What's up, Deep Thinkers? It's Robert from Existence First. And I'm making this video about a week, I think it's been a week since the unfortunate passing of Kobe Bryant and everyone else who was in that helicopter that day. It was very sad news, not only for California, but for the entire world. And that kind of put myself into a train of thought for the rest of the week. And it was only a few days later that I actually came across a quote very, very applicable to this. It was from the Bhagavad Gita. I was listening to the audiobook. I do that every morning um, until I finish it. And the quote goes like this. I'm going to pull it up. It says, "Whatever occupies the mind at the time of death determines the destination of the dying. Always they will tend toward that state of being." One more time. "Whatever occupies the mind at the time of death, that will determine the destination of the dying. Always they will tend toward that state of being." Now, that quote was very powerful when I read it, not only because it was days after the Kobe Bryant situation, but because it speaks again to freedom, right, which is one of the central tenets of Existence First in the Existence First philosophy. Our mind, I did a lot of workshops this weekend and some one-on-one coaching, and what's coming to the surface just time and time again is that this mind is constantly going. So how do we monitor that? I mean, if we're going to take that quote from the Bhagavad Gita and try to apply that to our lives, right? At the moment of death, whatever you're thinking, that's whatever your state of mind, your train of thought, that's going to determine the rest of your trajectory, right? So then it's crucial at every moment of your waking life to be monitoring this thing, to be asking, what is my state of mind? What is my train of thought right now? And the question that I came up with about this is like, what's the mechanism? Like, what is our monitoring mechanism here? Because people are walking around with this stuff going on in their mind, but they're not aware of it, right? Or they're either not aware of it, or they're not aware of how to handle it. The human being, this physical system and the mind, right? We're constantly receiving data. We're constantly receiving information and working with it, right? We're receiving information about the temperature in the room. Is it warm? Is it cold? Right? Today was very windy out, right? So we're receiving this constant stream of data. Even internal data about our physical system, of whether we're hungry or not, tired or not, right? And our emotions, yes, we can feel like it's very clear whether like, oh, we're feeling happy or we're feeling very sad, right? But what seems almost a little bit outside of our grasp is those thought patterns, right? The thought, just the train of thought, and just the flow of it, right? Almost like this dance, almost like our thought is like a dance going on inside of our mind that we just kind of assume that we're like, well, it's just the dancer, that's just how it goes, right? But we don't really realize that perhaps there's an order to this. Perhaps this is all this is the choreography is already done, right? Choreographed. Maybe there's some logic to this. Maybe there's, right? And once we start to see that and make some sense of it, then our thoughts are not so random anymore. So we bring some order to it. Okay. And how are we going to do this? I don't know. I mean, this week I came up with a question that made me think a lot. It's a little bit of a thought experiment, hypothetical question, but let's say this: if I were to make a phone call to your soul right now, and I said, hey, yeah, how are you okay with how so and so is behaving, how they're leading their life, how they're how they're running things? Are you content, right? Or are you just tearing your hair out, right? Or wondering, why is he doing it, right? So ask that question to yourself. and that's one way to kind of connect. One of the top 5 regrets of the dying is that of not living a life that's what other people wanted, not the life that's true to yourself, right? So we have to come up with some sort of mechanism for this, right? Of monitoring our thoughts and seeing if we're on track. Are we actually like living the way that we think we ought to live? And that could be accomplished by asking that phone call to the soul question, right? If right now we brought your soul in the room, it's kind of like that talk show, those talk shows where spouses are arguing or something, and then they're like, okay, well, actually backstage we have your daughter or whatever, right, who's been witnessing your arguments. Anyways, so what if this was the show, and we're like, okay, well, actually in the past year you did this, this, and this. You've been working this job, you've been in this relationship, you've been blah blah blah. And backstage we have your soul. So here your soul is going to come out and confront you about all of the poor decisions, or the decisions you've been making that are just so far off from your original purpose in life. So, all right, I think I made the point. So, it takes this other sort of like monitoring. It's almost like a different system, right? Observing the mind, observing the thought, and figuring out like, how do we actually make these decisions? How do we go about life in a way that we think is fulfilling? I had to deal with this today when I've been working a lot at this office. There's a lot of stuff to do, and today I came here in the morning, and I just every fiber in my body was telling me to go to the skate park and move around, get some physical exercise, and I really didn't have a choice on this. I had to go, and I went and had a good time, met some good people, and and there was, in a sense, there was some alignment there, right? It's no good when you have to live a life when the actions you're taking are not in accordance with this sort of purpose, or for lack of a better term. That's what we need to clarify. We need to clarify that process. Okay, so that's what we'll do in future videos. If you enjoyed this, then make sure you click like and subscribe and share it with your friends. I will see you guys next Sunday.